to join us? Shubham Chiburis.
Shubham.
Jagabut. Shindad dresses.
Ani, sama nam ku doing be.
So how are you guys doing?
Kongse khanda tang. Telo be, chamchang doing be.
How was your weekend?
It's quite nice actually.
Okay.
Geshema is asking, how did you spend your weekend? Did you take some time to read? Yes? This noise.
Yeah.
Have a nice meal.
Ah?
Have a nice meal.
Kala jimbuzda.
I went to Norwlinka.
Nice.
You all go together?
With Ankur and I met Ankur there, who was here in the course before, and the Vietnamese nun.
This one Norwlinka sanga mamuda. Many restaurants there.
There are many new restaurants in the locality nowadays, if you guys want to eat out.
Any recommendations?
Tene sanga yapo tene ming lai yes.
Yapo. Joyful ozina.
La.
Joyful later.
Joyful da konza hagu ich.
And Taste of Tibet.
Taste of Tibet.
Potala.
Potala.
Shima khale. Shima dawa doing. Okay.
Yes.
The Kungale de Yapura.
Your shamera.
Toki.
Toji.
Okay.
For vegetarian options, there is Toki, the futsal place.
Have you tried it?
No. Geshema is recommending that place.
That's why I think I did.
So let's start the session with a prayer, page number 6.
Suji Chunala Chunju Badu Dani Jazujin Dagi Jinzu Jibe Tsonamjin Dola Penjin Sanje Doba Ishu Sanje Shida Suji Chunamla Chunju Badu Dani Jazujin Dagi Jinzu Jibe Tsonamjin Dola Penjin Sanje Doba Ishu Sanje Shida Suji Chunamla Chunju Badu Dani Jazujin Dagi Jinzu Jibe Tsonamjin Dola Penjin Sanje Doba Ishu Sumjen Tangje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Demba Jeje Dunye Dan Dunye Je Judan Tewa Juje Dunye Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindewa Juje Niren Chadan Nidan Dewe Danyon Chembola Nebar Juje Sumjen Tangje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Demba Juje Dunye Dan Dunye Je Judan Tewa Juje Dunye Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindewa Juje Niren Chadan Nidan Tewe Danyon Chembola Nebar Juje Sumjen Tangje Dewa Dan Dewe Judan Demba Juje Dunye Dan Dunye Je Judan Tewa Juje Dunye Mebe Dewa Damba Dan Mindewa Juje Niren Chadan Nidan Tewe Danyon Chembola Nebar Juje.
So now we'll continue with in praise of the Dharmadhatu. Yeah?
Yeah.
As a translator, which text would be more kind of like closer to the original? The one that we have here, or the one that you're citing from your because I also have it.
Yeah. So it's two ways. Some of the verses, they are translated better in the handouts that we have, but some of the verses, it's better in the other one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
당한조 shona kazilis. Di shiloka
Chu renga retu chilech.
Tijiri
Retuk.
Redura. The Dolma Sachu namja shida. Olamalin. But the chair. Tatanda depend to Jiru Anne. Kachin Hasu Jimba Tangsara. Jimba Jimbe passing the passing to now. Anne Dilla passing to the such the summer to Olamara. Anne Trum Simje Tenjeta. The Trum Lachitang to Chitang. Migechibo Gitsurunda, and Pen Soda Gitsuru, Shansi Gitsurumabera, Tende Gitsurunda, Anne Simje Tenji, the Gawachiri Gitsuruna Yatadira, Tende Tanga, Anne Simje, Pemba Chibizu, the Zube Passion, Yemba, Sutrum, Zuba, something da, Sumbun Dene, Kanjan Jerry, Tende Passion Sumbu D, and Nature Ranshinchi, Rashineri di cheese, Count Jebanjola, Kondo the Powder, Sting Rashineri. Come the Jeberchol. Rasineri Korada and Tombani Laura. Tende related 60 to the all causes and potential and color.
Nuba. Nuba.
Nuba.
Ta kunzugi nganzugi sanji ji rik le jora. Kam rik le ta tezo potential and jurshayar ta kunzugi.
Ale deep rel tanisledra.
So we are now at verse number 66. In giving, one endures a range of hardships, and ethics gathers in the benefit of beings. Through patience, one performs the good of all. These three will cause the potential to unfold. So from here onwards, it talks about what is called the 10 bhumis, the 10 grounds of the different bodhisattva levels. And now, as we already discussed before, there is the 6 perfections, and if one is to achieve any of these grounds of bodhisattva or these bodhisattva bhumis, grounds or bhumis, then one must cultivate these 6 perfections called the paramitas. So in giving herein refers to generosity, the perfection of generosity. In giving, one endures a range of hardships, and ethics gathers in the benefit of beings. Ethics is the ethical code of conduct, and more particularly within spiritual practice, it refers to sets of vows that one takes to cultivate such an ethical conduct. So there are many different types of vows related to ethical code of conduct. For example, there is the individual liberation vow. Then the fasting vows you observe for a day or two. Then there is also the bodhisattva vows. So different levels of vows, different sets of vows that one can cultivate. But the most basic of these vows is, most practical of these vows is what we call the ethical restraint of not engaging in the 10 non-virtuous actions. The ethical restraint of not engaging in the 10 non-virtuous actions. So this vow is something that everybody, all of us, can cultivate and observe. And through patience herein referring to forbearance and tolerance, through patience one performs the good of all. These three will cause the potential to unfold. Now the potential herein is referring to the Dharmadhatu. And more particularly, with regards to the mind itself, this Dharmadhatu is specifically referred to as the naturally abiding quality of the mind. Naturally abiding quality of the mind. Thus.
Dinalo tanda phaji sungdo sa jimba da chudun zuba sung tadi odala chundu da ane samden da shirapungdo da ne chuna kan la chundu tang la da kare gan chik labalo ni chi because ane kare ni chik so chundu tang bai na chundu la di kan changa gel tro chida nga kale jaba chita ane duru cheba chibo mai ba ane chi chela ya ane gashin troshin ra changa gel tro la di gewala ya de ane Geshema Dawa Dolma Jutindegi and Lejila Ra Tindela Trovache. And something like Nepal, I think something like December Chichi, never you Kasakala Yoma in Kira. And something Sell and Juba Tans. And Tata, two Tata, Karin, two Takana Lejra, two Tata, and Shirela Temba. Karina Susan to Lelo, the Tindela Mashaba, Takanda, Chitsundi Chigo, and chicken leaning jibi sherapti, Pijetang. Zamzang to chicken, Semba 9 inch and Shasha Digala, leaning jibi sherapti, Pijematani, and Semba de Pay, and the symbol some Tanata usually, then Zamzang to Pijetang woman. Oh, the Shirel Tebaina, and it Karsina. Tea Shanchu Jabber Chill, the Tea Chitangi Chang Chuk like the Chang Lady Raju Newman, but some of our neighbors were the patch and Tangwacha. Chuk Lady any and then used to Zobach Laura. Tende Shanchu de any young that they are conduct on the Pedu, yes.
Now, as the verse number 66 explores the first 3 perfections, then verse number 67 explores the next 3 perfections. So, through being diligent in all the teachings and steeping mind in meditative samadhi, through thorough reliance on prajna, enlightenment will grow and flourish. So, through being diligent, diligent herein refers to the perfection of joyful effort, perseverance. So, it is important to understand that from the Buddhist perspective, perseverance or effort is understood as enthusiastic effort, joyful effort, and more particularly, joyful effort in accumulating or engaging in actions that at the least offers us the opportunity to take a better birth in our next lives. And more particularly, simply, joyful effort is understood as joy and enthusiasm in engaging in virtuous activities. And now, through being diligent in all the teachings and steeping mind in meditative samadhi herein refers to the perfection of concentration or meditative stabilization. And through reliance on prajna, wisdom. So now, through reliance on prajna, wisdom, it is important to understand the importance of wisdom too in our daily lives. We have a saying that if the mind and our lives are left unexamined, then we do not really have the means to cultivate, to develop, to see progress in our lives. So as such, we have to depend on that discerning wisdom to examine our lives, to examine our mind. And on the basis of these 6 great perfections, then one can hope to achieve enlightenment. And just a minute. And enlightenment, as we discussed before, is technically defined as the total extinction of both obscurations and afflictions, and in its place, completely perfecting all the positive qualities of the mind.
There were the first three from the 6 paramitas, which is generosity, patience, and ethical conduct. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then on the second one is the other 3: joyous effort, concentration, and
wisdom. Yes. The purging through the
Yes. That in my lady her lesna. That Tautan Jebi Shirep down the Tapis on the leisure, this is the Tautan Lady Chiglida, Tautan Jebi Shirep dance, Palam, Palam number Jamata, Palam number Tabishis on leisure, Televisore, Jamatas, and a top, Tobling, Yenes, Yeshi did that do any cursor, Yeshi lady tongue to wisdom. Shira, Tinde, and Chijis. Tinde to do because in Takata didn't shishi do tab down to the Chibi the Shiche, Shirilan and the Takata Teloko, Chiche, Palam the Niche, and the top down, and Yeshi Karasana, Kamna Runji, Jebber Chibach, Ra, Tinde the Chishu.
So now, the next verse summarizes the manner in which it culminates in the actualization of that naturally abiding quality of the mind. the Dharmadhatu of the mind. So prajna, wisdom endowed with skillful means, prayers of aspiration that purify, the mastery of strength and thereby wisdom, these four will cause the potential to unfold. So in Buddhism, we talk about in the spiritual in the cultivation of our spiritual practice, the importance of establishing the union of both wisdom as well as skillful means. How wisdom must be embraced by skillful means and vice versa. And then similarly, the next line, prayers of aspiration that purify. So our aspirations should not be stained or contaminated by worldly concerns. It should be our prayers of aspiration or our aspirations or motivations with which we approach our spiritual practice should be pure, uncontaminated in its nature. And then the mastery of strengths, thereby wisdom, these four will cause the potential here referring to the naturally abiding quality of the mind, that clear light nature of the mind, that Dharmadhatu that resides in all of us to unfold, to be actualized.
Machungwar, Chetan Tende, which Shanchu Gusele, Bezo Chebada, Tawa, the Nemeva, and it's Hawala Sobang, but then Mawa, the Chewaina, and he Shanchu Semba, the Casata Shanchu Sem Pala Majua, then the Shanchu San Rajel, Chemetu, Shanchu Semba Chaimara, Majua, and it's Chujikuni, Juma is, and Shanchu San Rajel, Chetumara, Shanchu Semba Shivita, Tanya and Jumare, and it's Chujikuya, and Tatuma Resland.
Now, verse number 69. Do not commit yourselves to bodhicitta. There are some who speak such dire words. But were there no bodhisattvas to develop, the Dharmagaya would be out of reach too. So, do not say that you shouldn't commit yourselves to awakening, to the awakening mind of bodhicitta. You should not say, you should not dismiss the altruistic intention and say that it's pointless to commit yourself to generating such an altruistic intention, because if one is not even able to engage, first gain some conviction in the altruistic intention, then there is no way in which one can become a bodhisattva. And if one really exterminates the possibility within yourself to become a bodhisattva by not being convinced, by not having any conviction in the altruistic intention itself, then the Dharmakaya, which is the embodiment of the Dharmadhatu that resides in all of us, cannot be manifested. It's manifested too.
The penna kande shayidana puhin, and the proms ngamu de way shinjura, pushinche, and seven la damala, the Chitang of the Jimundu and Jibundu go below. The Deji Chewaina, and Jiman and Debunya Marella, Chitang of the Shanchu San Pesha on the Gala and the Leda, pushing seven la damala de Magawa, the Tamandu, but the Chewaina, ra. Ani Karache per Dubai, Chisan de Karala, the Ngamudo, the Ra, sugar like the Pela, Tisa Say in Dubaina and Debul and the Jilamanduna, Ani pushing seven, maybe Tende pushing down, and it's a Debu seven Mibaina, Ani Karan Jua Mujitis. Chisan Tende, Ani Karachi Juduzula Magawa, the Manduba, Debusago, Duelana, then the Marella.
So herein, when it says, this verse is trying to highlight the fact that even if we do desire to achieve the result, but if we do not want to accumulate the cause, then this becomes impossible, achieving the cause, achieving the result of enlightenment, impossible. So the next verse makes this even clearer. Verse number 70, one who throws away the seed of sugarcane but wants to taste the sweetness it yields, sweetness its fruit yields, will without the seed have no sugar at all. So even though here it says fruit, Sugarcane, we are all aware of. Now, if we have to create molasses out of sugarcane, molasses, that sugar, that candy, that's something that we all desire. But the seed or the cause of that molasses is the sugarcane plant itself. And then you have to take out you have to peel the sugarcane, you have to beat the sugarcane, boil it, and so forth. That's the cause of the molasses that we enjoy. But we all want to enjoy the molasses, the sugar candy, but we don't want to bother ourselves about peeling and working with the sugarcane plant. So it's something similar like that. If we say that we don't want to concern ourselves with developing the altruistic intention, but we want to achieve enlightenment, because that altruistic intention itself is the cause. And unless and until we want, unless and until we work towards accumulating the causes, it is impossible for us to achieve the result. Yes. So we can appreciate this in our societies and communities. We know that if we want to achieve some results, then it really depends on the effort that we put into it. For example, you might walk about in this town, very town, and then you would see that there are many street vendors who get up very early in the morning and then begin very early in the morning to set up stall. And why are they doing this? Because they want to see some results in their life. They are putting in the effort to achieve the results that they desire to see in their life. And now similarly, when you look at small children waking early in the morning, carrying school bags, attending school, then why are the children waking up early in the morning and going to school? Because all of them and the parents want to see some result. They want to achieve some results. So that's why they are taking the effort to cultivate the causes. Even though I myself never had the opportunity to go to school in my childhood, but I have seen children, and when I see young children going to the bus with their parents, and then the parents running away immediately after the children boards the school bus, then I feel that this is something really hard, not just for the children but for the parents as well. Since all of you have gone to school, is it that difficult as I imagine it to be?
For me, just going to school was very difficult. So, when I was young, I always felt very restricted. I couldn't appreciate it. So, maybe, the younger years that you skip this could also be a blessing.
Kurang la da khawpo bet sorges. Lobda dre di kurang ya. And pi lobda na dona tis semba lobda na dona tis tho thambo do joras digzu do mangbo yo deras. Chezan tis busudong ro chige sniman. Samsam ani lobda yona ani chön mea chön sheda mea do thombo.
Nga kaza pagi ari do diya pagi chunji do zala tido. Ine pagi le sati kuti chibu yasara. Puga do do yara. Ine shogi ho lang ro maje tulu kon ro maje pekal do. Ani nije pama do zente ro shin tido da. Titsu karchi na nga zo karchi wala na rebu thani yor. Maomba puga di abo chana puga di labru shina. 라 아니 파마디 미도 부 코란데 시다 하고 말데 텐데치네 칼레자고라.
So while I was in the West, then I saw this firsthand, that early in the morning the parents have to force the children to wear clothes, then push them all the way to the bus, and there seems to be a struggle there. And even though when they reach school, I think they quite enjoy it because they are among kids their own age, they get to play and so forth. But to send them to school seems like a struggle between the parents and the students. But I'm trying to highlight the fact that there is a reason why why children are pushed in this manner, because the parents want them in the future to be well educated and so forth. So on the basis of wanting to achieve a result, then one must strive in accumulating the causes.
Today in the time of the Jukanda Kanachigi, Debu Zamuji do in the Jula College of Dra, the Nang of the Chushu, Chushu Chavala, and Chigi is about Sadu Jambata, and the Pages of Pachetula Yani Chabada, tell the sheriff to someone a bit something to on the top of that summer, Nazuki College Joda, Kali Majapara, Nazuki, Penachigi, Shidil Hinja, the Senate, the weather, and she Shanchu Sanda, and Tana, and Nazu, and over the Sanja, La Soba, and Nazu Jebu.
So similarly, with regards to our spiritual practice, we shouldn't wait for some accidental result or accidental effect to happen, because nothing really is accidental. Everything comes about due to causes and conditions. So if we do want to achieve results, see some effects, benefits from our spiritual practice, we must ensure that we are putting in the effort in our spiritual practice. And now, as we extensively discussed before, that if we want to achieve peace, happiness in our hearts, if we want to achieve liberation, enlightenment, and so forth, it is important that we cultivate these causes, these spiritual practices in our lives, such as the 6 perfections, developing skillful means that is embraced by wisdom, and so forth.
Judan Anis Sabin so much in a dig devotion. Today, never never penal the Pekin Sabin Consul Corasun the Daniel Chavata in the China, Annie never nation is Dubai today, any Debula Subata Dugo Resra Penacan from Paramazamajura Karala the sugar Halana did the Kara you chop the Namuganalo Yashiru Jinser. Today, Chonamne, Telen Jumor, Joa Taras, Chisel, today in the Galata, Puranare, Karainare, Hala, the Choduchibe Namadinare, to do some courage was not Jupihinda, today you cry 7 to July. Dasunda, tell him Bezuchu Resra. Then the Dania Juka Karchin Chison, Division Duguna, Marella.
Jima Dinyam do Sonshana Dida.
They were Jablo there.
The Pedunyam the Chida.
The net like that. Shanchu send Resuna, kissing under the Shanchu send dry. Shanchu send the la and Suzuki, Tanga the song along the Shanchu send la Dachido, and the Chewainera, Suzula Togo, but 20 years. Ani Nyora Neshi, Duba Chile, Tanga the Tende Shanchu sing that are nearly to the Ani Jeberchi res, and the Chom Lady Tanda Nidu Dacham Badara, the Choms Tokchin Lady Ranje Dachin Kundu. Ani to Kasa Chento Tangas, Sanjela, Tebachimbuira. Then they assume that Tele chasing Joanjers, Chesan, then they Shanchikusen, Zuzula and Ani Kalor, never Juvana, Ani Nidu Dachamada, Ranje Dachamada, Saji Komatsama, Kanji Chingans and business Latin Chungu or Tazi Chungu Marella, right? In then they Dachamatsama, Sosu, Juice. Tende Judul and Bezucha Latini, ani debut jungores.
So, moving on, it kind of sums up this point is that being made here with these next two verses. When someone values seed from sugarcane, maintains them well, and works to make them grow, a crop of sweetest sugar can be harvested. And just as what has come about like this, through valuing bodhicitta fully, maintaining it, working with it well, the arhats, pratyeka Buddhas arise, and so the perfectly enlightened Buddhas. So, if we desire sweet sugar, if we want to harvest sweet sugar, it is important to realize that we have to take care of the seed of the sugarcane, to plant it, to nurture it, to water it, and so forth. Without taking care of that seed, without tending to that seed, we cannot begin to expect sweet sugar from the sugarcane plant. So we have to maintain that, nurture, develop, look after the sugarcane seed and plant in this manner. So similarly, if we want to achieve liberation, enlightenment, and so forth, then we have to ensure that we value bodhicitta. We value the awakening mind of bodhicitta, maintain it, and cultivate it. And through maintaining, developing, and cultivating that awakening mind of bodhicitta, that altruistic intention to be of benefit to all sentient beings, then all forms of attainment, such as becoming an arhat, such as becoming the pratyeka Buddhas, and such as becoming completely and perfectly enlightened, becomes possible.
Saban sauce, chidangi salu saban la day chodo chawaro chigdara to shimban. Antakanda dende salu saban la soba takanja kanji sina dende debu gowala jula soba la ra. Ani karishunda ngando day narrato nare kare ngando matabegi tila ani shimba zugi kajina sumar chibatar. Shimbegi ngando chigdo pena ngando ti maumba kundu day mamu dewa insa tanda day ki sena dena matab tila le te chulu ani sungzu chi ngando tonguda dende roche. 대신 대초 매번 나오는 근데 아니 타바다 나지 집에 고반대비 간사 도저기야 가르치 왔으나 덴반나지 숨어란 제레데 단 덴발라디 갈아 소소 타바다 나지 쳔발이야 덴바체와 야 덴바체와 야 쩌바체와라 덴남지 숨어라 아니 다 콘졸 바테 간저 땡고로서라 근데 소소가 남땡녀도 줄라 아니 칼로 파템바다 아니 디 가르숨바나시 두바체와이나 아니 가라서 소소기 탑자 가르테와 dewaina aniti maumba susula tagores.
So similarly, verse number 73, just as seeds of rice and other plants are treated by the farmer with great care, aspirants who wish to make the greatest journey are treated by their guides with greatest care. So rather than aspirants, maybe it's aspirations. And as the aspiration to make the greatest journey are treated by their guides with greatest care. So just as a farmer would take great care of the rice seedling to ensure that they have a bountiful harvest, then if we want to, this greatest journey refers to the spiritual path to liberation and enlightenment. So if we aspire to liberation and enlightenment, then we must take care of that aspiration. That aspiration is none other than that altruistic intention of achieving enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings.
Namodi pedoni de nyamu pena chidars mangu chushila la digala pena ngazo dawadi mangu la digala dawadi matudu seba changala dawa chushira tini mama tudu digala ani tinde chushila digala pijidila mangu chushila digala nanga gosse dawa chunjuji made mara chidar mangu chushilas chunsi thora chewatar ngazo pedat digala ani sha nishizagu dini dawachi ginalo nishizagu 가서 다pe 친주미시 통고 말했으라 대신 티초 면남라 근데 대바 쳔베기 아니 고반 되면 나라야 사제꾼이 중세 통을라도 다든데 너다 sala shuba sala shubi chu sala shubi nes chuku rimji jeba perna tambo chunju mado meba ina jela yang seba chik chaunde kali ya chet dura wa pena seba chonga ko sanga tula chige da seba chonga la khaloti mani go chunju mado yo maresra ta ina nishu go nanga seba chikle de kali chet dura undi shida ani chetar dawe seba la de ta 근데 seba chikni ani ya kichi ya shedora kichi ni jeba thons 대신 살라 슈나자 근데 다 사람 당간도 사줄래 주라 근데 슈비 간사난게 림지 아니 페원줄래디 근데 똑바도 코네콘도 페도레스 와
So moving on, 74 and 75. Just as on the 14th day of waning, the moon is barely visible at all, for aspirants who wish to make the greatest journey, the kayas are but barely visible. Just as the moon, when it is new, visibly grows larger bit by bit, those who have reached the bhumis see the Dhammakaya more and more. So when we initially set out on our spiritual path, and just as the waning moon, it's barely visible at one point. So similarly, when we initially set out on our spiritual path, the Dharmakaya or the kayas in general are but barely visible. We are not able to see. We are not able to see and perceive and recognize the Dharmakaya to its full extent when we first set out on our spiritual path. But just as the moon, when it is new, visibly grows larger bit by bit, then those who have reached the bhumis, now as you develop your spiritual practice and as you develop your spiritual practice, then over time you begin to perceive and see the kayas more clearly, more clearly and more clearly. Thus.
Chitare nguchonga las dawa zobara chirwa tars tinde chitangi yangu dawala ani nyumarere ne sebachi ne chonga bara ani seba chonga ga ani dawa ge pe dawa nya ka la de ga changma nyos zoba khang do jura ra chitar sa yangu chonga las dawa zoba jewa tars dawa nya ka tar dawa pe de se shin tang ba zamni ge sa ji sama shu chembu se tuye tinde ni ba yura tinde gi chaba na shin 대신 살 사이 타투발디 텐데 상황이 똑바 타투바라 다나 아주 사치도 올시도 어디 아니 취지 그냥 조신 셀스 텐데 위 상황이 냠도 제버치와이나 아니 나타 아니 죽은 거 버려 발라서 아니 서치기레스
Then moving on 75 76 just as on the 15th day of waxing the moon has reached completion and is full, just so for those who have reached the bhumi's end point, the Dhammakaya shines complete and clear. So we talk about there being 10 bhumis, 10 grounds of the bodhisattvas, and when one is able to reach the 10th bhumi, then it is said that one is able to now completely manifest the Dharmakaya, and one embodies the Dharmakaya at that point.
tende le khalasna ane sanje chuda gende tane konjo sun sigdra sanje ji chuje gende las ta de me ba che ba ta konjo sun le me ba pe na ga na ba ji na ane konjo sun le me ba che gora se sang an zo gi chi ke na ba yi mi gi te su ma se de konjo sun le che sun do man do jira na ba sin kan de ji tin la mo de la ga zo chem do ko se shin ra konjo su che ne ya ta de ke na ma na ba ro la wa ta khanda khaji le us na sanje de chude gende la khadiine me ba de tembo ma zo gudi ani konjo la chik chap che mogodi yu she tene ma yin ke ta khadiine ani so so chik te ba ta ta na ye ba che che ba she sra sende yang da chi be na asre tende wi ge lo di ani so so ge chosun la ani kande me ba tembo yo ba ina ani sende yang da chi ba je le di tende ji che ba la tene ani gi shan chu ku sen la so ba na ju le ani che yung re sra che nes 아니 심이 도바 아니 양제 제 차주디 아니 수수ኝ을 템부지 시샤에 와이나 디마 도바다 마 냐마다 아니 디메바도 차에 말으스라 심도바 무도바 양양 중스라 심도바 양양 중 가르스나 야 콘도 야 페르레레스라.
Now, moving on, verse number 77, it talks about the importance of conviction, firm conviction in the three jewels, three objects of refuge. Now, it is said that if one has to become a Buddhist spiritual practitioner, one must have conviction in the three jewels as objects of refuge. So, even in the context of generating the altruistic intention of bodhicitta, it must be sustained by a firm and consistent conviction in the three jewels. So the bodhicitta, perfectly engendered through stable, consistent dedication to the Buddha, the Dharma, and to the Sangha, does not decrease, develops more and more. So it's talking about the importance of having a firm, unshakable conviction in the three jewels as objects of refuge, and how this also stabilizes the altruistic intention of bodhicitta.
다디걸 사치시드라 사치도 담보 독도치티나 야민다 상트라 사치디 카르라나 담보 사당보르드 가와
Tiswa Nidinichita. So from here, from the next verse, it talks about the 10 bhumis, or the 10 grounds of the bodhisattvas. So before we move on, maybe we list down what exactly are these 10 bhumis, or the 10, yeah?
I was just wondering if we could slowly go over the 10 non-virtuous actions, just really quickly, because I only have 8.
8, maybe you can list them out. Kola Korang Megiwa Chujira. The Gyemashin Korang Gima Toko Tumasons, Ni Tangimindus.
알레레 또 미겨워지더라 미겨지 변한 거 미겨지도 가르스나 담보 류기 넘버 숨샤오라 아니 나기 넘버 시 아니 이기 넘버 숨샤오라
So in listing the 10 non-virtuous actions, try to list them out in this manner, that through the three doors. First is the door of body, and there are 3 non-virtuous actions of the body. Then there are 4 non-virtuous forms of speech, that's the second door, and then 3 non-virtuous actions of the mind. So that makes up for 10 in total.
다디 시드 칼라나 담보 마라 류 숨드라 속체바 마젠바 렘바 아니 로임 숨지.
So the first of these 3 are the non-virtuous actions of the body. So these 3 are killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Last.
아니 나라 시느라 제 차마 치주 나체.
So then, moving on, the 4 non-virtuous forms of speech are lying, divisive speech, harsh words,
나체.
and then idle talk or gossiping.
아니 얘기 숨데 나셈 뇌셈 lokta.
And the 3 non-virtuous actions of the mind are covetousness, coveting something that others have, saying that I wish I could have this for myself.
나셈 뇌셈 lokta라.
And harmful intent. And then finally, wrong view.
데네디 된다 하고 고살라도 미기죠 된다 하고 안딜라고.
The napsim la di kharrela sa.
Alea.
Napsim la di shen la thak chala so la goye samsam ki
네네.
napsim.
나셈 뇌셈
Lokta.
lokta.
Good. Four. Lying, divisive speech. Nas.
신들이
No,
지혜.
divisive speech, harsh speech, and gossiping.
세상 저기 미게 주고도 쓰는데 아버지 손투나 아니 미데 야시 그저 심하게는데 이번도 여버지라 대전에 많이네 미게 주고 쓰는 야보서 많이네 미스딜 아니 미 아버지다 미장보지다 가와도나 저 참아라 템바 내 중고다 라 먼저 미스 나로라 미 빼나 강이 테디니 다나 차다 로가다 티메기 미데 미 라마트는 강이 중대 참아 페지디 나로 레지로스다 라 하바 나 미게와 시주라 도저 나로 되지로 다 간다 미게 주고 쓰던 미게 주디 나로 롱 되지로스다 야보 따지시나 미질 강이 티 잡로 가르다다 콘은 데디니로스 통으로.
So, if we are able to really observe an ethical code of conduct by not engaging in these 10 non-virtuous actions in our daily lives, then we effectively really overcome many sources of our suffering in our lives. Because when we look at it carefully, apart from physical suffering, illness and so forth, many of our problems and suffering do indeed comes from our attitudes, from our actions. We not only harm ourselves, but we also harm others in the process. So if we look at these 10 non-virtuous actions, then we can begin to understand that if we refrain from engaging these 10 non-virtuous actions, then we really can become good human beings. And if we are able to live by such an ethical code of conduct, then our interactions with others would become meaningful.
Do you mind explaining wrong view?
Tene lokta la jora ti yanjo chidishe jayen goribes.
지당이다 이니 지당 거는 차상 질러서 그래 이 개천보다 다 단단한 미게 주시리 디 로주 참아 개வர와 배낭 아주 미게 지 이변은 이미 되어도 당부 시와이나 배는 쏙 줘발라 때니 대상하시 정한 로거로라 메세와다 된지 지는 아주 로고다 그래서 개와시마다 알라 아장장 소주발라 세통하다 망불리고르데 단대기 뒤 나라저기 통치 뉴트를 봐라 아니 직소도치 아니 밀리투 버전담르시나 밀리투도 준담르시나 아주 정한 로고다 아니 미 이슈소 따당 두제 체이다 그래서 가서는 네 소치비 미게 레티기 아니 데부 나도 카이라에 통해 봐. 다 두즈 체면은 아니 메소소 시대 바베네 도라. 아니 야 마진 발레 때네 다가르다 디스 쿠마다 잡아도 가도 주던 준노라 ngam니 아주 고마고가 도라. 고야다 트와다 그 이제 지워라. 디 지발레 때네 주마야 디 빌리스가 하고는 정말 쩌야라서 봐 동야라서 봐. 아니 야 디강이 튀기다. 디에 단다야 아주 로인데 다가르다. 봐. 소소기 찍자다 마이게 미시발레 도와치는 나로라 자투자 아니 자상 카토야 아니 소소기 찍게 남도 토보토이네 자베 바차이 망부질리다 라 그래서 sama 가르서는 된데 미게 찍게 나로 단다 가서 류기 미게와 치 류기 미게와 숨으라 숨디 아니 다 라레 타발레 된 데부트뉴 거라 계시 든좀 맞아 와이나 라시 거 개와차거라 류기 링아이 류기 개와 숨도 차이.
So now maybe we look at the 10 non-virtuous actions generally first, and it is important first to reflect on the negative consequences of engaging in these non-virtuous actions, and it is important that we appreciate this experientially by reflecting on it. For example, when we talk about the 3 non-virtuous actions of body, then it starts with killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. So it is important to reflect and come to understand the negative consequences of engaging in such actions. Without doing that, then it is impossible to develop a sense of true restraint, not to engage in it. And as such, try to think about the negative consequences of killing. So, not just from a spiritual perspective, saying that, oh, if you engage in killing, you will have to bear the results or the karma in your next life. But in this very life, try to think about the negative consequences. How? Through killing someone, you might land up in jail, you might lose the respect of others, and how it affects not only you, those who love you and so forth, and how it affects many relations in your life and so forth. It is important to try to think about it in this manner. Then similarly, stealing. consumed by a sense of greed, if you begin to take that which does not belong to you, and then if this comes to light, same problems, same negative consequences. Then how it causes trouble, suffering not only for yourselves, but those who associate themselves with you too, and then how you suffer through the consequences in this life, either by losing the faith and trust that other people have in you, and how you yourself might land up in jail and so forth. Then similarly, sexual misconduct, pursuing relationships outside of your marriage, how this destroys harmony in a household, not just between the two people, but also your friends and the people that associate themselves with you too. So try to think about it in this manner. First, try to understand the negative consequences of these actions in our own practical daily lives.
Tadi de ben lu megyo sunde ya cheshimal basana tawaina ra soche bala den chethung la jlegda khashiya chi bugo ina re mesin che chawa da tongdo ya ndo pe chetundu gal ra khashi lo tuji de ja de ni ra chesan de ngi de bu yin la ta na tu dura na soche bala den chethung che dang ndo da den lu yor ra ani soche ba ani de maji balen ba dil de ne ani tanda de suzo gi chi mi phagi yuno la suzo hamsa chen tho ani chi di gala na chao shuma di na chao shuma khelenji na khala ne kola maung ba chi juno me ba obo tende gi chawa ne ra tende yung re la da ani da loyung de ta yang chi ta gi shira ma bo nyewa nam do susu gi chik da susu chasin che se gi mi di susu nyewe ne ko ra shu ne ko le ani ko 사실 막이 호도 저기 끼 고요 서로 듣자가 되냐 많이 내야 막이 레디가 야 야기 코디노 근데 이게 강이 튀겨서라.
So now this is with regards to trying to reflecting on the negative consequences of these actions in this life. Now from a spiritual practice, you take this even further and reflect on the negative consequences in your next life. So it is said that if you engage in the act of killing in this life, then in your next life, your lifespan becomes very short. So for example, there are babies who do not live up to be too very long, who do not have very long lifespans. So from a spiritual practice, from a spiritual perspective, the sutras say that by repeatedly engaging in the act of killing, then your lifespan becomes very short in your next lives. And then similarly, if you engage in the act of stealing in this life, repeatedly engage in the act of stealing in this life, even though it might be the case in this life, you are able to accumulate unethically prosperity, wealth, material possession, but in your next life, you will be bereft. You would be without the very same thing. You would lack prosperity. You would lack material possessions and so forth. And then, with regards to sexual misconduct, it is said that at the moment of death, there is the danger of this karma manifesting itself. It is said that at the moment of death, the people that we have become attached towards in engaging in sexual misconduct, then at the moment of death we begin to almost hallucinate that we hear the name and hear the voice of these people as if it's coming from from up there. And then when we begin to direct our minds to look up there, then we don't find them there, and then we begin to hear the voice somewhere down below. And then when you begin to direct your minds to look for them down below, then you can't find them there. So that's the kind of experience at the moment of death if one begins to engage in sexual misconduct.
당가 거는 아니 가서 시드카스나 주인래더라. 답변은 가서 통신이 제랑 가서 미신알람이 주인시드나 소소래 지친이라고 말해. 주인시는 담보 계산 가시지 라스기르 미주민이라. 아니 지시니 시선 버르들레체 lumba 간자 미드 주마레 이체야 말레디가 견알레 이지 진치라. 이치 미지디 아니 소소소 지포도 쳐도 가와더라. 소소 깨지시네 이치니요 말에 쓰라다 미 par zuma chansin su ya po chi la gi mara mi la ta bo ra ni shi ri ani so so mi zil ka ngi thi da zun shi ba ani zun chama de pe kalor mi ni the mara zun chama chi zu mi ni thembu ni ta thembu ge ge do ina re chi choba ina re khanda mi themba de pa tor she ora mi de bo so ora wa 근데 이제 안에 딩게도 저때냐 그냥 가서 지 미니 버루라 미 참분이 떨되나 버루 군인이 되게 하고라 얘기 또 얘기 뒤버루라 칼로 참아 거기 말아지는 게 일어서를 저 말아지도 그 일어서 담아서든 버루도 군인이 또 하고라 드디 소소래 강이 되기라 와 전 참아 치주 가서 가이라에 통보다 미질 직주볼라나 직주볼라라니 파이 권이들 가부신 쓰지요 아그 직주볼라 남서 파이라 지금 이게 생마시 생감 투셔도 와 아니 전타부터 나치래야 돼가지고 잠잠아서 세고 통고 말데 달로는 제야 이날에 수수기 가르치 내가 가르치는 게 바라보면 뭐 시리디디가 뒤주 참아 틀었다니다 와 들었더니 아니 같이 뭐 시리는 양아도 남도 뭐지 좀 지난 밀게 쇼 미든 대화 쳐고르데 된다 매바지 참막 주도지는 시대시다 근데 시와이나 아니 수수기 직라발라는 시와이나래 내가 가르치와 이날에 든 참말을 찌는거든 근데 수수기 직 갈로다 파쇼 밀을 남도 뭐지 좀이다 뭐든 다 가요라 가두다와는 되는시다
So similarly, we need to reflect on the negative consequences of the four non-virtuous forms of speech. And when we look at the first of these, which is lying, then if we repeatedly engage in lying, then our words, our speech itself begins to lack value and worth in the eyes of other people. And so similarly, other people would not want to be honest and open with you. Because if you repeatedly begin to engage in lying. Then similarly, divisive speech. Now this is one of the most dangerous forms of non-virtuous speech, divisive speech. Sowing discord, disagreement between people, community, organization, and so forth. And now if you repeatedly engage in divisive speech, then it is also important to realize that people come to realize the people between whom you sowed disagreement and discord at one point comes to realize that this is your doing. So as such, you would have to face the consequence one day, sooner or later. This is important to reflect on. Then harsh words, now we don't really need to explain this much. We can all understand the effect the harsh words can have on us. Then on the basis of that appreciation, we can also begin to understand the hurt, harm it can inflict on others when we begin to engage in harsh words. Then the last of these non-virtuous forms of speech is idle talk or gossiping. And now even though we do not realize it directly, but many times we are caught up with idle talk or gossiping, and the time that we could actually dedicate to our study, to our practice, we effectively waste it by mindlessly engaging in this kind of talks. And another thing to understand about idle talk is when we engage in gossiping, idle talk about meaningless things with people, then this sows discursive thoughts in other people. This sows suspicion, hesitation in other people's minds.
되게 소소한 추조토는 시와이나 라페는 가서 단다 좀마시 망부 치디디가라 슈마야 저 슈마들 소소 되게 데부디라 나 가서 고고 테리니로 나 미카지 레기다 시선나라 가디는 고고 테리니 그 짱하면 소소게 레지 사사라 아니 제 참마 아니 양 가시야 이제 가지바로 루디로라 카 지칼로다 미 카치로 그래 빠르는
간주
디퍼런 홍도다 소소 지금 가리네 지 아버지 지고 상거데 가디네 지 빠르를 쳐야 되니로 근데 차리다 대양 자왕하면 소소기 파미션 발라 담다 툭툭 땅파 가체라 라 참아체 발때 전 참아 치주르데 난 가시 디도 이제 미 내가 차가도 지 소소기 보스로 이나래 소소 가리네 내가 지서 코이들 가디네 어제 땅 콜라 지 가디네 담 힘에 짠져 코데 그냥 자왕하면 소소기야 파 미션 발라 엔데 체라 메네 신제 가리느라 참 치주 땅 아치라디야 잠도 가진 딘디로 지다 페딩에 딱딱 때 테마스 되네 준 전에 인상 ngachile ne khaji keche khadi ne chi nganzo gi shiso nala me khashi pe yapo chanje khodi da de ko lebe me chanje he khashi pe khadi ne duja chanja khodi jo migi keche shiji de ko ge nando go dota gi ne khanda khorang gi pe duwa mo do ya ma go shili da ti khala ne ma khorang gi ngache she ma bo shibi de bure la.
Now, from a spiritual perspective, we begin to reflect on the consequence on our next lives. So, if you repeatedly engage in lying in this life, then it is said that in one of your next lives, it could be the case that you yourself are always lied to by other people. You fall prey to scams. You fall prey to deceit by other people. As a result, then similarly, if you engage in divisive speech, it is said that in your next life, it could be the case that you always find yourself between two people who disagree all the time, and you are always caught up in other people's argument. You find yourself in the middle all the time as a result of engaging in divisive speech in this life. Then similarly, if you use harsh words, speak harshly to others all the time in this life, then in your next life, you yourself would be at the receiving end of verbal abuse from your co-workers and so forth. Now, I don't remember exactly how the scriptures talk about the effect of idle or gossiping, idle talk or gossiping in your next life. But if I'm not wrong, from the Abhidharma literature, it seems to suggest that if you repeatedly engage in idle talk in this life, then in your next life, you will fail to appreciate the positive things out of a situation. Because if you notice, we in our communities and societies, and among the people that we come to interact with, we might have run into people who always see the negative side only, who fail to appreciate even a bit of positivity out of a situation. So this is the kind of effect, karmic effect, that engaging in idle talk or gossiping can have. And then we drink tea and gather again in half an hour.